Hey everyone, and welcome to Live from the Lab. This is the show where we talk about different technologies that Bruker has developed in order to help scientists discover the world around us. Today's topic is X-ray microscopy. Now, X-ray microscopy is a technique based on micro-CT where we look at samples in 3 dimensions. Actually visualize the interior without having to cut them up, without having to destroy them, leaving them in their pristine condition. But with the advent of these very powerful benchtop instruments, things like the X4 POSEIDON, we've gotten a lot of knobs that we can use to optimize those scans. Things like the kilovolts, the milliamps, that is the general wattage of a measurement, or the detector that we're using in the field of view that we can cover. Well, how do you know what the right settings are to use? We're going to talk about that today. How do we optimize our scan conditions to get the best results? Good morning, Billy.
Good morning, John. How are you?
I am wonderful. Welcome back.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Thanks for joining us.
Yep.
And thanks everybody out there for joining us today. So really kind of intriguing thing that we have now is these benchtop platforms, but they got a lot of settings. It's a little bit overwhelming, right, sometimes?
It can be, especially if you're familiar with some of our heritage instruments. They're a little more simple as far as like less things to click kind of thing, less options.
Yeah, it was kind of like you need, a basic system, 1275. You need more resolution, 1270 or 1272.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. But like with the thing that I like with the Poseidon specifically here is the freedom of control that you have, the ability to be able to move a bunch of different things and optimize things just in the best way for whatever your goals are for your project. So or for that scan anyway. And
overall, though, I would say this is one of those important nuances. I would say we don't trivialize it, like it is important to use the right settings, but at the same time, you're generally going to get some good scans out of these things.
Yeah, and that's one thing we'll look at with the data today is you'll see that they're all good scans. Everything I'm going to show you is a good scan. It's just being able to optimize it and get that next level.
Yeah, it's kind of like cell phone cameras, right? Like,
yeah,
it really enables anybody to get an image, and that's what these benchtops do. They enable anybody to collect scans on any of their samples. But at the same time, when you start diving a little bit deeper and you start talking about how do you compose a picture properly, how do you set focal points, things like that, you could take your photography to the next level.
Right.
Same thing with these, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I understand you take it to the next level. All right, so with that, maybe we just dive in. I know you got some pictures here. Presentation.
Yeah. So what we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk about the X4 Poseidon. The scans were done on the X4 Poseidon. So just a quick, that's the external shell of the system, and you can see some of the internal components. So for us to be able to get a closer look at the internal components and visually show you what we're going to be talking about as far as what we change. The sample moves closer and farther away from the source for us to gain resolution, but also we have the variable detector geometry that moves closer and farther away from the source as well. So being able to do these two things are going to be very important for what we talk about today. And just to clarify here, we have the source on the left, samples in the middle, and then the detectors are on the right here.
Generally, like all of these systems, all of your CT type scanners, they use this geometric magnification, right? So it's
correct.
You got the sample there in the middle, you got a source that has a tiny little spot in it, and then we've got the detector, and you're projecting that tiny little beam as a cone through the sample. So the closer you stick the sample to the source, the better the resolution.
Yep.
Right? But then if you need more field of view, you can take it, put that sample closer to the detector, and now that cone is bigger. You're going to get less of the projection, so you get less of the magnification effect, but you get more coverage of the sample. That's the most basic. We call that geometric magnification. Sometimes we abbreviate that GEM. Poseidon here, what we're seeing is something called GEM Plus. Right. So what's GEM Plus? How do we take geometric magnification to the new level?
So now we have the nice thing with this system is a benchtop system, but it has the option to have 2 detectors in there. So we have the geometric magnification. We can move the sample closer and farther away from the source. We can also move the detector closer and farther away, so we can speed scans up or maximize, like you're saying, maximize the speed, resolution, or field of view. And then if you add in that second detector, it really allows you to, now you have the ability to go to a higher resolution, or if you have the CMOS detector and then you add in the flat panel, then it allows you to change your field of view, change maybe the speed of the scan. So the ability to have two different detectors and the variable geometry really allows you to balance the speed, resolution, and field of view, which is just, I mean, it's like I was mentioning at the beginning, it's like the freedom of control of all the different things you can, all the knobs you can turn.
Yeah, and that speed, that's that extra dimension. That's what brings it into that plus. And you know, some of these settings, they were available before on like larger platforms.
Yep.
Right, like our 2214, you've had that ability, but really a benchtop. I mean, that system, we had it here on the show before, right?
Mm-hmm.
What, it took up about that much of the table?
Yeah, it's 4 feet wide and a couple feet tall.
2 feet, 2 feet. So it really is like a compact thing to have all of that functionality.
Mm-hmm. And just needs a standard wall outlet,
right?
Which I still think that's crazy.
But now that it's so approachable, that's the question becomes like, how do you set up a scan? Because you could put the sample there at the right resolution. You can move the whole thing up, get a little bit more speed. But maybe you don't always want to because maybe you can get a little better contrast.
So it depends. So let's start with this. So there's the first things first is we need to make sure that we are. You need to be scanning at the appropriate resolution. Okay. So you need to make sure that your sample size is representative of the feature size you're interested in. Mm-hmm. So I usually like to say that twice. You want to make sure that your sample size is representative of the feature size you're interested in.
What does that mean?
So, for example, we have a bundle of toothpicks on the left here, and then a single toothpick on the right. Okay. So if you're interested in looking at the internal structure of a toothpick, or maybe the voids inside of a toothpick, then it's best to scan a single toothpick as opposed to scanning a bundle of toothpicks because you want to get the voids out of all the different toothpicks.
Yeah.
And you can kind of see just a visual representation here of why that's important. It's much easier. It'll be much easier and much more. You're at a much more appropriate resolution with the right to get the internal voids. Now, if you just want to see like how well toothpicks pack together, or your sample, whatever it is, packed together, this is perfect on the left, right? You're scanning at the appropriate resolution. You can get the voids in between the toothpicks. But we want to make sure that we're scanning at the appropriate resolution for the feature size that we're interested in.
And this kind of comes into,
we'll start there.
Into that geometric resolution, right? Because
it does,
you can only get the sample so close to the source without crashing into the tube.
Right. Yeah, that's the other thing is with a smaller sample, you can get closer to the source and then, higher resolution.
So yeah, and on the left, I mean, what I see there is I see the suggestion of a microstructure.
Right.
On the right, I definitely see the microstructure.
Yep. Right? Yeah. Yep. So, and then for today, we're actually going to be talking about, I did some almond scans. So, and so one thing you were just talking about is being able to move that detector up gives you a faster scan.
Okay.
Which is fine. That's good. So let's go ahead and look at the details of these scans. So the scan on the left is going to be the fastest possible configuration. So I ran it. The detector was as close as possible.
Yep.
And then so both scans are at 4 microns.
Okay.
And then the only thing that changed was the detector was as close as possible on the left, and then the power was maxed out. So I was scanning at 40 kV, and then or 50 kV. Okay, it was 140 or 50 kV, and then I had the wattage maxed out. So that's on the left.
That's how I'd always run it. You just get fastest data.
Fastest as possible. Yeah,
fast,
it's a 34-minute scan.
34 minutes.
34-minute scan, and it looks great, right? Now the scan on the right was with the detector at its furthest position, still 4 microns, but I lowered the wattage to match the resolution. So now our wattage is 4 watts for a 4 micron scan. So we're matching our wattage to our resolution. So again, now look, the fact of the matter is both of these scans look great.
Yeah.
But let's look at a little closer detail. So we're going to zoom in on this spot, right? So
wow.
Yeah, there's.
Now, these are processed the exact same, so we don't have like some edge magnification or edge finding going on here.
No, I did. So there's no smoothing. I just did a raw reconstruction.
Okay.
And there's no smoothing or anything like extra processing or anything like that. This is just how the data was reconstructed.
So now the left, 34 minutes. The right, an hour and a half.
Right.
But sometimes the left would be okay too.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
So depending on what you're looking for, like if it depends on what your goals of your project or goals of your scan are. But the scan on the left is awesome. I mean, like if I go back to this, the full field of view there, It's the left scan looks amazing, and from this perspective, from like a full field of view, it's kind of hard to tell what the differences are until you zoom in. So now we're seeing like these voids, for example. These voids are much more well defined. We have much better resolution on those voids. The outer shell of the almond, there's
you don't even
structure to it.
Yeah, you don't even see the voids in that shell.
Right.
On the left.
Yeah.
Like you might get a suggestion, but it's not there. The other one is the contrast.
Yeah.
How sharp that contrast is from the top material to the bottom material.
Yeah.
On the right versus the left. So you really get that contrast boost by lowering the
You
power.
can, yeah, the left side looks like it's just kind of a gradient from the higher density to the lower density. But over here, there's a definitive line that starts to pop out. And so that's the benefit of having your detector as far back as possible, as well as matching your wattage to the resolution.
And this is the sample you used, right?
Yes.
So that's an idea of the scale.
We have our sample here with us. So that's the star of the show, for being honest. But so
it's not. I mean, it's not the smallest sample, and it's also not the largest sample. But it's a decent size. That's why we see a lot of samples.
Yeah.
So, but it's really amazing how just changing. So now you did the distance.
Yep.
You moved the detector farther back, and that means the sample also moved a little bit farther back.
Correct. Yeah. The
So you maintained the same resolution there, but then your power now. So what did you do there? Did you do KV? Did you do MA? Like how did you lower the power?
So with the Poseidon, I kept everything's the same KV.
Okay.
And I guess another important note about this is all the scans you're going to see, same KV, same number of projections, so the rotation step is the same, the frame averaging is the same. The only thing I changed was the power and detector distance. That's it. Everything else is the same, scan settings wise.
So what do you think the origin of these effects are then? So it changed the power. Your general rule of thumb, what is it for power? It's match the resolution of the power, or what?
It depends on your goals. So here, let me go to the next slide too, because I want you to see. This is what we're seeing from the left to the right. We're seeing an increase. I would say an increase in maybe quality or contrast.
Okay.
So we have these two are the detector close, and these two are with the detector far. And then we have detector close at 10 watts, detector far at 10 watts, detector close with the wattage match to the resolution, detector far with the wattage match to the resolution. So we're seeing an increase from left to right in quality of scan.
Right.
But the fact of the matter is, we're seeing all four scans look really good. My guess is, at first glance, you're saying these all look exactly the same. You probably don't really see much difference. But it's one of those where if you zoom in, you can start, especially like these features up at the top here.
Okay. Yep.
You can start to see some drastic increases in quality.
Oh yeah, right there, especially between those two, I think we see a huge change.
So this is from detector close to detector far. So one of the things, back to the question you asked a second ago, one of the things going from detector close to detector far, you're in your farthest position.
Yeah.
What ends up happening is there's less edge blurring. It's geometric blurring.
Okay.
So there's less of that going on. And so just going from detector close to detector far, but keeping your wattage maxed, you'll see a big benefit.
So the origin would be then that if we think about that cone, when we put everything close, we got a much wider cone.
Right.
And so it's penetrating through the sample, it's having to go at that more extreme angle.
Yeah.
Whereas in the far distance, then everything is a little bit tighter. It's not that we're actively changing the cone either. It's just the part we're intercepting. But it's more parallel. It's not perfectly parallel, still a cone, but it's more parallel, and so it's giving better edges.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the other thing is, with your detector farther back, your exposure time is going to go up. And then one thing we always say is the more counts, the better. So the more that your sample is exposed to the more that the detector sees, the better the signal to noise ratio is going to be. So that's also going to come into play some as well.
But it does also come back to your scan should reflect what you need out of it.
Right.
If you just want that quick scan, you were looking for a feature on the larger scale, then you're there.
You know what I do? I do this all the time, and I tell customers when I'm doing trainings too. There's a lot of times I'll do the scan on the left first, and then I'll figure out, like, because it's only 34 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, that's fine. That's great. So I'll do a 34-minute scan first, and then figure out if I like what I'm seeing, and then I determine whether or not I need to there's no reason you don't necessarily need to jump to that higher hour-and-a-half long scan or 5-hour scan, whatever it is. You don't need to jump to that right off the bat. I like doing the short scan first, seeing what the settings look like, seeing if I like it, seeing if it's going to get me what I need, and then if I need to go to that next level, then I can start matching the wattage to resolution, I can move the detector back, whatever it is.
Yeah. So that versatility, that's what's nice, because you don't need to have 2 different instruments to do this. You do it all in one.
Right, yeah. And then the other nice thing is, because we talked about multivision.
Yes.
We talked about having the 2 different detectors.
Mm-hmm.
So, like we were showing the little voids and stuff like that, right? There's a microstructure there.
Yes.
That maybe we want to unlock, or maybe you didn't know that it was there. But let's look at a higher resolution, right? So now if we go to this next higher resolution, so now we're using the CMOS detector. So, and again, so let me show you. So now both of these scans are at 750 nanometers. I could have gone a little closer, but I couldn't do it. I couldn't get the almond close enough. So,
yeah.
So we could have gone down a little closer, depending on which sample we were looking at. But so now look, CMOS detector. It's 16 megapixels.
Yep.
So the data sets are gonna be bigger. It takes longer to collect these data sets. So the short scan was 3.5 hours. But look at the level of detail now that we're seeing in the almond. Like,
yeah.
You almost wouldn't expect to see that level of detail,
Right. And then you take it to that scan on the right, and it's even another level of detail. Like what we thought was a homogeneous matrix material.
Now that we're seeing, so let's zoom in
it's
again.
Really like all microporosity.
So there's a lot of structure. For me, it was the structure here and here, and then this was the biggest one, I think, for me. This region here versus here. Mm-hmm. There's so much more structure and contrast popping out here. Again, there's no filtering. I didn't adjust projection or rotation angle or frame averaging. These are both done the same, and these were done with the same settings as the flat panel scans. So just the level of detail is now popping out. So that's the benefit of having the CMOS detector as well. It's like sometimes you don't know what that next level of detail is going to show you.
Right.
So that's the benefit of having the
it's almost like
detectors.
now the boundary, where in the original image we were kind of looking at that boundary between the 2 areas. It was like, oh, is it a gradient?
Yeah.
And then we said, no, we did a better scan, and then we were like, no, there's a boundary there. And now we see, wait a minute, there's actually almost like a film, like there's a little layer between the 2 phases. And then on the right, you can start to see the details of the layer.
It's almost like a hard line, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Whereas it just looked like a soft boundary in the flat panel scan. Yeah. So I mean, really, these deeper details are now starting to pop out really well. It's awesome.
So this is where what's important to understand is that not every time are you looking for that level of detail.
Yeah.
Sometimes you want to have, the medium level of detail. Sometimes you want to bring out a certain feature. You want to have a little better contrast, and you have the ability to do that.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing is like that the detector for the CMOS scan, the really high quality CMOS scan, that's a 24-hour scan. So I mean, like you also have to justify, do I have the time for that? Do I need to do that? Is that gonna benefit me in any way? For some people, the answer is yes. Sometimes the answer is yes. Maybe there's probably more times where the answer is no. You don't necessarily need to do that.
You need to think about, like you said, justifying your time usage, right? Like, are you answering the question that you want to answer? The other thing I would say that I'm looking at here is that you can't, like, if you just tell somebody, hey, I want this field of view and I want this resolution.
Yeah.
That's not the whole story.
No.
You really, really got to look at the contrast side of things. You got to look at the actual sharpness in the image.
Yeah, what features are you trying to tease out? What's the material? And then that's going to affect, like, if you're trying to tease out an interface on something, like we saw with the almond, that interface. So if you're trying to tease out that interface, then it's going to be the higher resolution. It's going to be the longer scan. So you can tease that out.
So a lot of our users out there, especially benchtop, they might be novices. They're just starting out. Now this might be a little bit making them afraid, right? That, oh my gosh, I never knew what I was missing. What are some just like little tips? Like, I know you have one for the power. What do you generally recommend for your power setting, for resolution and power?
So first thing is you want to make sure that you're matching your KV and filter appropriately. You want to make sure that you're using the right KV for your sample. So larger and or higher density samples are going to require a higher KV and a stronger filter.
So KV is punching power.
Right.
The higher the KV, the higher the punching power.
Yep. And then
you mentioned filter. So when we say KV, the thing to remember with X-ray tubes is you don't just get that energy.
Right.
You get everything from 0 to that energy. And that filter, that helps us there, right?
Yeah, it helps cut out so if you're using a higher KV, it helps cut out the lower energy X-rays. Or whatever it is, if you're using whatever KV and you're using whatever filter, you want to match those appropriately. So a thicker filter for a higher KV to help cut out more of the lower energy X-rays, because you need that higher energy. You need the higher energy for a specific reason, right? You want to punch through whatever material you have. So in other words, you don't need those lower energy X-rays. They're not going to benefit you. They're just going to get absorbed in the outside of your sample and cause beam hardening effects or something else.
Yeah, that's the big thing, right? If they're not penetrating fully, or they don't have the potential to, then you get that beam hardening.
Yeah.
And now it's a correction you need to do.
So either you put a filter in there, or your sample is going to act as a filter, and then it's something you have to correct. So,
right. Yeah. So general rule there, when you have on your system aluminum and copper, the aluminum ones, those are for the lower KVs.
Yep.
And then the copper, that's the higher KVs.
Right.
And then the thickness, the smaller, the thinner, that's for the lower KVs, the thicker, the higher. Okay.
Correct.
So match your KVs, match that, and then also you had mentioned kind of match your resolution to your power. So you want 2 microns, you go 2 watts. You want 10 microns, you go 10 watts.
Yes, and an important thing, so if we go back to the slides, I'll show you this. So these high resolution CMOS scans were done at 750 nanometers. So
you go for 0.75 watts.
Right. Yeah. So that's what I wanted to clarify here.
What do you do?
I did these at 2 watts. So the reason, I did this the high one at 2, or the high quality one at 2 watts. So the spot size on the transmission source is 2 microns for the Poseidon. So there's no reason for me to go below 2 watts, because that's the best spatial resolution for the transmission source. So if your scan is going to be below the spot size of your source, then just go to the spots and take your wattage to the spot size of your source, which in this case is 2. So that's what we did for this. So,
but when you are optimizing your resolution, like you said, it's 2 microns is the smallest spot. It's still worthwhile to go to a smaller resolution, though, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like here, you went to 750.
Right.
And I know you got a cool example, or a thought, a way to think about it, right? It's like if you're looking at a circle.
Oh yeah. So think if you're using a flashlight, or like I saw another example where a laser pointer versus a flashlight. So a laser pointer, the edges are going to be way more sharp, and so that's when you have your wattage lower down. It's going to be a much more focused beam. But if you have a flashlight, it's going to be a
gradient.
Little broader beam, and the edges aren't as sharp. So that's where this comes into play. So if you're at a higher resolution, you want to be using a finer point, because it'll better match the resolution you're scanning at. The other example is if you have one of those flashlights where you can pull the front forward or back, and it makes the beam go wider. So one of those. So it's the same as the laser pointer, but with it focused in, the edge is a little more sharp. If you put your hand in front of it, you'll be able to see the details of your hand a little better. And then if you broaden it out, it starts to get a little more fuzzy, and your beam is now scattered. So the edges start to get a little more blurred.
All right. So we've got an idea about your general rules of thumb as it comes to power. What about distance? Because now we can do, like you said, now we can move the detector. So that gives us that new thing. We can move everything closer or everything farther. It can make things faster, make things slower.
Right.
How do you approach that? What do you think?
So But so here's the for these examples, or sorry, for this this slide here. So the one on the left is the fastest, and so you can see down here the scanner geometry.
Okay.
And then the one on the right. So these are the flat panel scans, CMOS scans. The left is the fastest for each one, and the right was the longest or the highest quality for each one. So really it goes back to what do you need. So in this configuration, this is the sample as close as possible, and then we move the detector up as close as possible. So you can see our source to detector distance is much smaller than in this instance, where the source to detector distance is as far as possible, and your sample moves back a little bit. And it's the same for the CMOS, so close and then far. So this is kind of what it would look like when you do these things. And it just really depends on what level, like, again, this scan and this scan are both really good scans, depending on what you're looking to do.
Yeah.
So it just depends on what level of detail you're looking for and what level of contrast you're looking for. So I think it would just be dependent on that. But it's nice to kind of get a sense of what this looks like as far as your scanner geometry.
So for everybody out there, the idea here is, as long as that sample, when you're close, right? If you take your system and you put this really close, and then you take the sample and you have that as close as you can to the source, that establishes a certain source to sample distance.
Yes.
And now you have this source to detector distance also. If you move the sample back the same ratio that you move the detector back, so if you move them both back a factor of 2,
right,
you will maintain the same magnification.
Right, yeah, your resolution will still be the same.
You get the same magnification, and that's what we're kind of talking about here, is that even though you get the same magnification on paper, by moving it all farther back, you're going to get a little bit better edges. You're going to get a little better contrast. Now, you move it all up, you're going to get a big speed increase.
Yeah.
I think the general number was, what, moving from 400 to 200, you increase the speed by a factor of 4.
Yeah, so yeah, you can get about 4 times faster.
So you kind of got to balance that speed. A little bit less contrast, a little bit, the edge is not as good.
Yeah.
Move it back and look at your sample and determine, does that matter to you?
And I guess another point here is I was doing the extremes, right, for the example, so you can see the end members. But you don't necessarily need, like you said, 200 to 400 is the detector distances. But if you want, you can go 200 to 300 and then keep it the same resolution and see what that gets you. You know, maybe you like that timing better. Right. You know, that puts you more like an hour time instead of hour and a half, and that's more what you're aiming for. So you'll still see an increase in quality by increasing that source to detector distance. So you don't necessarily need to go to the full extreme. Well, I need to get this as far back as possible. So,
and a lot of times, I think what we do in the lab is that we lean towards doing a few scans of the faster scans, just see what's going on in the sample, get an idea, how can we optimize things. Then we go to the longer scan times, so moving things back to really dial it in.
Right.
So that's kind of your general workflow idea. Now, what about your general feeling about when you use a flat panel versus going to a CMOS?
Well, anyone who's watching the live from the labs with me know that I love the flat panel.
Yeah.
So it's tough for me to switch off.
So don't ever use a CMOS. Is that what you're saying here? Because I mean, the data actually, we saw that next level of detail.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. I love the flat panel. So it's tough for me to switch off of that. But when you need that next level of detail, I think we showed it with the almond scan. That next level of detail, you just can't see that with the flat panel. You just can't get down to that resolution. So if you need that next level, I love the flat panel for fast scans, the full field of view samples. I mean, it can even get down to like this into 3 micron resolution on small samples. So we did 4 microns with the almond. So you can still get down to those nice higher resolution. But if you're looking at trying to get like a single-digit spatial resolution in your sample, you need the CMOS detector, and it's great for that. Really makes that next level of detail, that micro or nano structure pop.
Yep. But awesome. Because then the big difference between the two is the number of pixels, or the pixel size, right? Yeah. So we have much tinier pixels, and there are a whole lot of them. So you get a lot less signal into each. The way I think about it is, like, say you've got a bunch of 5-gallon pails and you throw them out onto your driveway when it's raining. Well, each pail collects a lot more raindrops, so you get more signal in each pail. Now, on the other hand, if you go out and you put a bunch of little red Solo cups,
Yeah.
or even tinier, the little Dixie cups, put those out there, you're going to get a lot less signal, a lot less rain in each cup, but you get more resolution in terms of the coverage. So you're going to have to count longer in order to obtain the right statistics.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. CMOS scan, they are longer, but it's a higher resolution, and you can get much higher quality data.
A tip I'd throw out there for the detectors is this too. If you're looking at buying one of these machines, and you don't necessarily think that you need them both detectors at the beginning, maybe the flat panel is doing great for you today. When you get the system, ask them to throw in the mount.
Yeah.
Or not throw in, but have it configured with the mount for the other detector. And what that's going to do is, in the future, if you decide to add that other detector, they just boop.
Spot's already there.
Yeah. It's all set up for it.
Yeah, just waiting on it. Yeah. No. There are very few customers where I don't recommend them. Just at least having the mount in there.
Just at least get the double mount.
Yeah.
And then you're all set up. And it doesn't cost much. So there's a little charge for it, but it really sets you up for in the future if your needs change.
Well, the thing I always say is, I know this from experience, my previous job. As soon as other people find out that you have this thing, you're going to be like, I didn't even know we had this department, and they're sending me samples to scan or something. So as soon as people find out what you this awesome technology that you have, you're going to be getting samples from all around the company.
Right. So we talked about power, right? Optimization of power things. We talked about optimization of the geometry of the detector itself. Were there any other things that we were going to bring up today? That's a lot. That's a lot of things.
Yeah, I know. And I guess one thing I will say is, I know for a lot of people, especially when I give trainings, this can feel very overwhelming. But this isn't like a hard and fast rule that you need to do this. This is, judge this and use these tips and tricks to the point where it works best for you. So if you don't want to think about it and you're saying, figure out your KV. So you figured out, okay, we need 50 KV. All right, cool. 50 KV, 200 microamps, go. And then you're at your max wattage. Make sure you're using the right filter. 50 kV, aluminum 0.25er, no filter. So make sure you're at your right kV, and then just go. There's nothing wrong with that. If you want it to be fast, or if you don't even want to mess with the detector distance, and you just want to leave it all the way back, that's fine. You're not doing it wrong. It's just these are tips and tricks to help tease out other details if you want to go down that route.
Yep. And if you got another system too, it's not an X4. The same rules apply. The general ideas.
These are all just it's all just physics stuff. So there's math behind it that I can't explain right now.
Right. that would take us well beyond the fact that we've already gone beyond our half an hour here. But with that, I think we should probably answer a few questions.
Sure.
We do have some that came in before. If you ever are watching these later, you got a question, or if you see an episode that's coming up that you're interested in, you can send your questions in before to live.events@bruker.com, and we'll get to those. So we'll answer the ones that did come in before, and also we got a few people here in our chat. So that's the other thing. Side of your screen, or bottom of the screen, however you got your YouTube configured, you can go ahead, type your question in there. We'll answer them right now. So let's see here. So we've got from Carlos. Hello. So watts go hand in hand with spot size, but how do you correlate that with pixel size?
Correlate with pixel size.
So I think the idea there is, what's the right wattage for the right pixels?
Oh, okay, yeah. So, okay, that's how I was understanding.
What's your recommendation? Because in the software, and he says also you can configure the resolution right in the software.
Yeah, so that's if you're scanning at 4 microns, so your 2D pixel size is 4 microns, then the highest quality is going to be with your wattage at 4 watts. And one thing that gets confusing is the physical pixel size of your detector. So like our flat panel is a 50 micron physical pixel. That's the size of the pixel itself. So that doesn't come into play with this.
Right.
It's the 2D pixel size
That comes from your physical magnification.
Right.
Geometric magnification.
Right.
So 50 microns, you can make it into 4 by having the right sample distances.
Right. Yeah.
And that's in the software.
Yeah.
But say you're at 4.
You're at 4 microns.
4 microns.
2D pixel size.
What would you recommend for your power?
4 watts.
4 watts.
Yeah.
And so that means that you would have that optimal kV for the sample.
Right.
So if it's a heavy absorber, it might be 100.
Right.
Just to make our math easy here.
Yeah.
So then you might do...
you do 40.
40
microamps.
40 microamps, and then that gives you 4 watts.
Yeah.
You can go higher.
Yeah.
It's just it's going to look a little fuzzier.
Yeah. And thank you for bringing that up. So the Poseidon lists what the wattage is.
Yeah.
In the top of the scanning settings, but some systems don't say that. So it's kV times microamps divided by 1,000.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you figure it out. So there's a lot of times like with other systems, like I said, they don't show the wattage.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of times if I'm trying to figure out if I'm at 125 kV, I need to figure out how to get to you know 13 watts or something like that. I don't know how to do that math in my head. So
type the numbers in.
I have to do it,
right?
So I figure out what microamps I need to be at.
But and then you said that if there's kind of a lower level, which is about 2.
It'll be the lower level for your wattage is going to be whatever the spot size of your source
smallest
is.
spot size.
Smallest spot size.
Yeah, if you're on a 2214, that's the big machine. Floor standing unit nanotomography. That thing, you would go even lower, right?
Yeah.
You would go down to 500 microns.
Yeah. So
you 500 nanometers, excuse me.
500
right?
Yeah. So you'd be at half a watt.
Half a watt.
Yep.
Then would be the kind of optimal number to go to.
Yep. For your highest resolution, yeah. So if you're scanning at like 100 nanometers or something like that, being at half a watt is good.
And these are just little tips. They're not hard,
Right.
You can
Not
always
hard
try
facts.
something else.
Yeah.
And if it works for you, for your sample, you never know.
Not telling everyone to increase their scan times by 4 now.
That's right. That's right. A nice sample I like. Whenever you're doing tests, if you're ever interested, you can do it on an almond. You can do it on things like that. They also have these standards. So like whenever we qualify an instrument out there, it's called QRM, right?
Right.
So and you can go online. You search QRM micro CT. I find it. You might have one with your system. If not, you can order them online. And that's like a 3D standard.
Yeah.
You actually stick it in your machine, run it under the conditions.
Yep.
And then look at the result.
Yep.
And you get a number then, because it has these patterns.
Right. Yeah, they have the standard
micron
lines.
spacing, things like that. So that's also a nice thing for a novice who's trying to get used to things and really kind of have some ground truth to it. Understand. Yeah. All right. So Blake sent in this question: do these tips only apply to an X4, or would they also apply to a 1275?
Great question. So, okay, if you have a 1275 or 1275 is a good example. So 1275 has a fixed detector distance. So you can't adjust your detector distance, but you can adjust the wattage.
Okay.
So you would go into your scanning settings or scanning options, whatever it's called, and then where you can adjust your kV and your microamps. And so you can adjust that at the very least.
And you can change the filter. That one has that little manual filter.
And you can
changer.
change the filter. Yep. So, but you should be using the appropriate filter for whatever your kV is. But yeah, so if you're scanning at 80 kV and you have your aluminum filter in, you can go in and adjust your microamps. That system has a 10 watt max.
Yep.
So you can go whatever, it's like 5 watt minimum, and then is the spot size, and then 10 watts max. So you can adjust anywhere in between that to match your resolution.
Yeah. So any system really can just try these things out.
And on that note, if you're above, like I said, that one has 10 watts. If you're above, if you're scanning at 15 microns, just go to 10 watts. It's once you're above the max wattage, just use max wattage is fine.
Yeah. All right, Lisa, I understand the wattage optimization, but should I change the kV or the MA? So we talked about this a little bit.
Yeah. Use the appropriate kV. Figure out your kV for your sample, whatever your sample is.
All right, let's say I have a rock.
Okay. Yeah.
What kind of rock, John?
Yeah, love rocks.
Let's say I got a regular old rock. I went out in a parking lot here, and I just grab a rock, I throw it in there. What would my kV be?
You're probably looking at what's the size of the rock. What do we? But if you're looking at a smaller rock, like the almond size,
It's like this size, and it's a chunk of limestone.
Chunk of line. Oh, thank you. I love the
Okay.
specificity
Yeah,
there. That's
yeah.
amazing.
Billy's a geologist, so we got to say the right words.
Let's go.
Okay.
Let's go. Like I don't probably like I would start 80 or 90,
Okay.
but it could be
Yeah.
lower depending on like on how compact and
Yeah.
how dense of a sample we're talking here. But yeah, I would say like 80 is a good starting point, and then you would adjust accordingly.
All right. Now let's say I have same size.
Yeah.
Now it's a plastic 3D printed sample.
Same size plastic
So
3D
it's plastic,
printed.
like 3D printed plastic.
40 or 50?
40 or 50. So we go
Yeah.
lower, huh? But like, what if I'm measuring styrofoam?
Oh,
I know it's your favorite.
but
Because you actually use styrofoam to mount things because it's so low density.
yeah,
Right?
Yeah, styrofoam.
But what if we have something that, very, very low density like that? What KV would be using there?
I mean, like with the Poseidon, I think the lowest is. I'll have to double check it, but I think it's 40. I
It'd
don't
be
know.
like, how
I'm
low
not sure.
can you go?
Right, yeah,
Use the
it's
lowest KV you can, right?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, styrofoam is very, very tough.
Now you had this sitting around the lab the other day. You had something about that size. It was 3D printed metal.
I know.
Then what do we do? KV?
Yeah, max.
Max.
Whatever. Yeah.
Whatever,
3D print-
however high you can go.
Well, if it's aluminum,
Yeah.
I mean, still max.
Yeah.
And then you're just gonna have to count. You're just gonna have to. The denser it is, the more counts you're gonna need.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe more frame averaging.
So that's the idea. Higher absorber, you go to higher KV.
Right.
All right. And then the milliamp, you just follow that to hit your wattage.
Right.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. And then last question that came in before from Christian. In terms of scan settings, what is better? More projections or more frame averaging?
Yep. Great question. So
By projections, that's the step, right?
Right. So if you have a rotation step of 0.1,
Yeah.
you take an image at 0 degrees, it rotates to 0.1 degrees and takes another image.
Yep.
So that's your projections or rotation step. So more projections for lower density samples because the X-rays don't have any trouble getting through the sample, and so your counts on the detector are good. They're high. If you have a higher density sample, like a rock, then more of the X-rays are going to get absorbed by the rock, and so your counts on your detector are lower. So you want to prioritize frame averaging because the more times, what frame averaging is at 0 degrees. If you have a frame averaging of 10, it's going to take 10 images in that one spot.
Yeah.
So in other words, it gives the detector more time. It gives it 10 chances to pick up signal in that one spot, and then it can average them together. So more frame averaging for higher density samples or larger samples too, and then more projections for lower density samples.
All right. So that's all of the questions that came in. Again, if you're watching this later, you got a question, send it in, live.events@bruker.com. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah,
today,
happy to
Billy.
be back.
Yeah, it's great having you. So look forward to the next one.
Yes, sir. Can't
And
wait.
thanks everybody out there for joining. Spend your time with us. Till next time, keep your signal high and your background low.